Hi, my name's Gemma. I'm one of the Community Engagement Rangers for the Access team within Hampshire County Council. And today we're going to talk about livestock, specifically how we walk through fields of livestock correctly and safely with and without our four-legged friends. Now, understandably, some people are a bit cautious about going through fields, especially if there's cows, sheep or horses in them. So today, I hope this video will explain to you how to do it safely and how to judge if it is safe to do so or not. So first of all, we're going to talk about sheep. And we're going to introduce you to Alice, who owns these sheep. Hi Alice, thank you so much for meeting us today. Your sheep are incredibly curious about what we're up to. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and the sheep, please?
Yes, so we farm 160 ewes here. We have just finished lambing, which is why we've got lambs that fit. So we lamb our sheep from April onwards. These guys are about 2 weeks old and we'll keep them up until about November, December time, and then we'll sell them at market as store lambs.
So the reason that I've got Chester here today is because we really do need to talk about how livestock and dogs interact. So when we're on a right of way, on a footpath or bridleway and it's going through a livestock field, we need to be aware of how our dog could be affecting the livestock. So for instance, the sheep here are incredibly curious. Usually they would be further away from us with a dog. But the really key thing that we need to point out today is we want a happy, hassle-free dog walk. And that will mean having my dog under effective control. And you notice I've got Chester on a nice short lead. It's not a flexi lead, it's a nice short lead. He's being nice and calm, which is ideal. I'd like to talk to you really about when people come over the rights of way on your land through your sheep fields. What is the main concern for you, especially if they've got a dog with them?
The main concern for us is when people don't have their dogs on a lead. Obviously, sheep are fight or flight animals and they will flight, so they will just run. Your dog's instinct is to chase anything that runs. So even though your dog might be friendly, once they get that instinct in them, there's no stopping them, and that's what causes sheep worrying, which for us as farmers is awful, going out there and seeing, your sheep in a condition you don't really want to see them in, and no one would like to see it.
So as you can see now, Chester is way within my control. He's very close to me. So if something's about to go wrong, he's literally right there for me to pull him back or grab his collar and be more in control. But if he's on a flexi lead and he's quite far away from me, I can't do that. He is not in my control. So the key thing, especially around a prey animal like a sheep, is to have them in close proximity to you.
Yeah, that would be the main point is, keep them in close proximity, and then it's best for you and us and the sheep.
Absolutely. So let's talk gaits, because sheep are known to be escape artists.
Yes.
And I don't think people realise the tiny gaps that they can slip through. Do you have a problem with that on your farm? And talk to me a bit about why we need to shut those gates and why it's so important.
It's really crucial that gates are shut when you walk through them because, like you said, sheep are extreme escape artists and they aren't always the easiest to get in either.
So if someone was to find, whilst on a walk, an injured sheep, what would you like that person to do?
Yeah, so if you find an injured sheep, ideally we would like you to contact the farmer as soon as possible. If you don't know who the farmer is, just maybe knock on neighbouring properties because likely the neighbours will know whose sheep they are and they can get in contact with them.
Alice, thank you ever so much for having Chester and I today. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I really hope that we've engaged with the audience how to walk through a sheep field correctly with and without a dog.
No, thank you for the opportunity of letting us express what issues we have with people walking through the fields with dogs. Thank you.
Cheers. Now we're here with Ryan to talk about cows. So there are a lot of footpaths that run through cow fields in Hampshire, and cattle are a very, very popular livestock animal to be seen out and about. They are also an animal that people are quite wary of. So it's really important we discuss how we should be going about walking through a cattle field today. If you are wary at all of walking through a cow field, just don't do it. Replot your route and avoid it if you're not happy. But hi Ryan, let's talk about your cows. Now they're very, very inquisitive. They're quite young. So Ryan, let's talk about how curious cows are. I mean, obviously when we walk through a livestock field, we're not as close as this,
No.
But they may come up to you. And obviously a key thing is when you're walking through is not to act exciting because they are curious, they're inquisitive. And if you become an exciting thing in their field, they're going to be drawn to you, aren't they?
Absolutely, and it's not necessarily the fact that they want to come and see you. It's more they'll be interested in the smells, your shoes. The thing you need to be careful of is if they go away from you or get overexcited, which is how they are, is you watch their feet kicking out. It's the thing you don't expect. The cow's gone by you and you think you're in the clear, and the next minute there's feet in the air. Yeah. Which is probably more of a danger than anything. Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about if you've got your dog with you, because this is a key reason why we do hear those stories of tramplings and things like that. And it's a really important point to make. And it's understandable why people are fearful of cows, and I think that's healthy. Yeah. But if you've got your dog with you and you feel there's something amiss and they are maybe running towards you in the field, what should you do?
In that situation, you'd really want to just down the lead and just get a bit of distance between you and the dog, ideally. These particular animals won't be too much of an issue because they've not got calves, etc., things like that. If there's something they're worried about, it might not look like a calf, it might look this size or even bigger, but until that animal is of an adult size, that mother is going to mother it and protect it through whatever. And the dog coming on
it's a predator.
To them is a predator. Yeah. To that cow, a cow that, what these will go into, 750 kilos, that is a predator that's just going to come and attack their baby, because that's what happened hundreds of years, millions of years ago.
So it's also it's healthy to keep your distance from them, isn't it? And if they come up to you like this, which might happen, try not to engage with them. Don't stare them in the eyes. Yeah, sure. Keep moving, really, because you are walking through a field. You've got to keep moving. Yeah. Don't faff around. Don't do your shoelace up. Just get out of that field. Exactly. Yeah. Don't run unless you have to. Yeah. And another key thing is really, if you're on your bike, get off your bike. Push it. Yeah. Don't cycle through the field, because that's going to be very exciting. If you're out on a run, stop running and walk. Yeah. Because any livestock is going to find that either quite frightening or interesting if you're 100%. Running. Yeah. So obviously we've seen sheep as well today, and we don't want them getting scared. So it's just judging the animal, isn't it? Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so let's just quickly go back to dogs. So we want a happy, healthy, hassle-free walk, and that inevitably means keeping your dog close to you and in sight at all times. So do you ever experience problems where you've got dogs running around your field and livestock worrying?
It does happen, more in the sense of they do run and play with the dog or whichever, and then that will just upsets them more than anything, and then they through fences, and if it's through fences, then it's...
You've got escapees.
Yeah. Yeah. And having a lot of main roads in Hampshire and stuff, so it's, it can get... That's where the problem will probably go.
So that's a really, really wise point for us who have got dogs. It might not just be scaring the animals, which is what you don't want to do, but also you could cause road casualties if you've got cows loose out on roads. Yeah. So actually that's a really interesting point, because we don't think about the wider issue of cows and other animals being spooked. Yeah. So thank you for that. Okay, so another reason why it's really important to be observant when you're going through a livestock field is because there might be someone like this in the field. So this is a bull. He's 5 years old, I've just been informed. And the reason why I want you to check the field before you enter is because whatever's in that field could alter the route you're about to take. Ryan, what would you advise people to do if there was a bull in a field and the right-of-way goes through that field?
Probably try and avoid it. Just the cows in themselves are inquisitive, and to a bull like this, they are his ladies. That is his job. He knows that's his job to be in there, and sort of as a predator towards a calf. Us going to some of his cows is a similar thing. Yeah. But like you sort of know if you're going to go and deal with the bull on a lot of cases, the small ones like we've just been with, you're sort of safe. There's not going to be a bull with them. They're too young. You can sort of assess. But bigger cows likely to be with calves, they'll more than likely is going to be a bull present at some point.
So as a walker, I'd be looking in that field. There's young in the field. Oh, there's a very large cow. I think it might be a bull. I might actually not go through this field and go around an alternative right of way. And I mean, I personally think if you're at all worried about walking through that field, that's the call to make. Why would you stress yourself out?
And the stock.
Stress the stock out, potentially stress your dog out too. Yeah. Just go another way.
100%.
If it adds a few minutes on, it adds a few minutes on, but it's safer for everybody involved, for the cattle, for you and your dog. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. Ryan, thank you ever so much for your time and to introduce us to your cows. I really hope our viewers have found that helpful. I think with cattle, people do get very concerned. So hopefully we've managed to help people and make people's minds up about whether they should or should not enter a field.
Yeah.
But thank you for your experience, and I really, really appreciate your time.
No problem.
Finally, we're going to talk about horses. Now, we're here with our horse owner, Laura. She owns Albie. There are so many horse riders and horse owners in Hampshire, including stud yards and riding schools. So horses are something you're going to see quite frequently whilst out and about using the Rights of Way network. With horses, we really need to be more observant about entering their field in regards to the fact they're quite sensitive creatures. And we're going to talk more about that with Albie now, aren't we, Laura?
We are, yes.
But first of all, please introduce him to us.
Hi, thanks, Gemma. So this is Albie. He's a 31-year-old cob gelding. I've had him since he was 3, and for the last few years, he's lived quite happily in a paddock near the house.
31?
Yeah, 31. He's an old boy.
That's incredible. And there's obviously quite an obvious thing going on with Albie. He's only got one eye.
He does.
So that makes it even more important when we've been talking about observation and before you enter any animal's field, having a look at the animals in question. So if I was to enter Albie's field and I noted he only had one eye, I have to be more aware of the fact he won't know I'm there if I'm entering on the blind side. So it's stressing really why we need to be looking at these animals before we go into their field, like we said with the cows and like we said with the sheep. So it's really important we look, we know, is there any young in the field? Do the animals look well? Have they got an obvious disability? Those kind of things are going to affect how we enter their fields. Now, talking about horses, we've touched on the fact they are quite sensitive. What things would you be wary of when coming into their field? What do you think people need to know about?
So horses are predominantly a flight animal. So if something they find scary, they will run. People coming into their field wearing bright clothes, moving fast, loose dogs that are going to run towards them, horses will find that quite scary and could potentially run potentially away from people, but also the option towards people. You've then got the worry that you're going to have an injured person, an injured dog, or in my situation, an injured horse. The last thing you want is a spooked horse that's going to fall over and hurt itself as well. So something to be very aware of.
Talking about bright colours, we have touched on the subject as well of runners. So we have recommended that runners should walk through livestock fields. If you run through fields, sometimes cattle get quite excited. The sheep would become quite scared, but also I think the horses would probably fall under that category as well.
Yes, horses don't like fast-moving, colourful objects, so runners that are wearing bright colours or cyclists that go past on a road in bright colours can be quite scary for horses. So it's always best to just slow it down, walk calmly and quietly through a horse's field with your dog under control beside you.
It's not the time to be going out getting your personal best, is it?
Definitely not, no. And as a runner myself, I would love to have a personal best on every run, but it's not always possible if you're going out on the countryside.
Absolutely. Let's discuss feeding. So there is quite a big problem about people feeding other people's animals, and especially with horses, because they do tend to come up to people, don't they, over the fence?
Yeah.
Now, please tell us why it's so important we do not feed horses.
So horses are generally friendly animals, and Albie is certainly very friendly, and when anybody comes through his field, he loves to come over and say hello. But we do ask people not to feed. You don't know the horse's medical history. Albie himself has laminitis, which means we have to be very careful about what we feed to him. Anything sugary and things is out. So we ask people not to feed the horses. It's in their best interests, and it's best to just keep your distance and not offer them any treats of any kind.
It's just introducing bad habits if you start feeding other animals as well. There is quite a problem with the New Forest ponies at the moment. Every time they see people come over, they automatically think there's a picnic in the bag. So the ponies come over to the people and obviously cause the people to be a little bit scared, or the animals with them. So it's also introducing bad habits to the animals as well. Another reason why we shouldn't be feeding anyone else's animals. Obviously, a lot of people who own horses own dogs and vice versa. So sometimes the assumption is, oh, my dog will be fine with horses because he sees horses at the stables all the time. But if it's not a horse you know, you can't assume that. We have to assume that the horse may be freaked out by the dog's presence and to have it under effective control.
Yeah, that's true, Gemma. Albie is very friendly where dogs are concerned, but not all horses are. Sometimes they can be quite intimidated by dogs. Dogs that are loose or are barking, horses could find quite a scary thing. So we should never assume that all horses are friendly towards dogs or feel comfortable around dogs.
Again, it brings us to the happy, hassle-free walks that we're trying to promote here. You want to go out on a walk in the countryside. If you wanted to have a nice stress-free walk, think about how you're controlling your dog. And we've spoken about it before, but we'll mention it again, in making sure that they are close by you. They're within eyeshot of you. And if you're around animals that you're not quite sure of their background, then really think about how you're going to have that effective control. And today we've chosen Chester to be on the lead throughout, and it's worked absolutely perfectly. He's had a wonderful time. I've had a lovely time, and it's not been stressful. And that's what we all need to be considering whilst we're going out walking with our dogs. Thank you ever so much for your time today, Laura. And thank you, Albie. You've been a really good boy. Thank you for talking to us about your experiences being a horse owner with a footpath running through your paddock.
Thanks, Gemma. Nice to see you.
I hope you have found that as informative as I have. Let's consider the main points that we've learned today. So number one, I would say closing gates properly. Sheep are escape artists, so we need to make sure that these are closed when we enter a field. Number two, let's be observant. Let's look at the animal in the field before we enter the field. Albie's got one eye, for instance, so we need to make a note of that. What about if there's a bull in the field or young animals? The animals will behave differently, so we do need to be aware of the animals before we even go into their field. And if you're not sure about anything, use an alternative route. That's really key, I think. The third thing we need to think about is feeding animals and why we do not do that. There are some really important reasons why we do not feed these animals. They are not ours to feed. So do not stop and share your picnic with animals. Just walk through their field calmly and efficiently, but do not stop, don't engage. Dog poo is really important to note in here. Now, we have got a video online on our YouTube site, so please do watch that. It's the importance of why we should be picking up our dog poo. And finally, we need to be thinking of effective control with our dogs. I, for instance, have had Chester on a lead throughout this today. He has been under effective and close control. He's been within my eyesight at all times. We really do need to be considering that when we walk through animals' fields. Is our dog going to be safe? Is the animal in the field going to be safe? And are we going to be safe? And for a healthy, happy and hassle-free walk, you have got to consider the way you control your dog in these situations. I really hope you've enjoyed that today. If you'd like to see more of what we've been up to, check out our YouTube channels and check out our other social media platforms. And I'll hopefully see you again soon on another video. Thank you.